I was standing in line at the local post office, waiting to mail a package to my cousin who lives across the country. The line was moving slowly as usual, but I didn't mind. I had my headphones in, listening to some music and scrolling through social media on my phone. Suddenly, I heard someone clear their throat loudly. I looked up and saw a woman with a sour expression on her face standing behind me. She was dressed in designer clothing from head to toe, and she looked like she was in a hurry. "Excuse me," she said, her voice dripping with entitlement. "I need to get in front of you. I have a meeting to get to." I raised an eyebrow at her. "And I have a package to mail. We're all waiting in line here. You'll have to wait your turn like everyone else." She glared at me. "Don't you know who I am? I'm Olivia, the CEO of a major corporation. I don't have time to wait in line like a commoner." I rolled my eyes. "I don't care who you are. We're all equal here in the post office." Olivia scoffed and started tapping her foot impatiently. "You're just jealous of my success," she said, looking around the room as if expecting someone to recognize her. "Fine, I'll just have to take matters into my own hands." I watched in disbelief as Olivia stepped out of line and walked straight up to the front counter. "Excuse me," she shouted, banging her fist on the desk. "I demand to be served immediately. I'm in a hurry." The postal worker behind the counter looked startled by her outburst, but she remained calm. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but you'll have to wait in line like everyone else." Olivia huffed and crossed her arms. "This is unacceptable. I demand to speak to your manager." I rolled my eyes again and turned my attention back to my phone. I didn't have time for this entitled nonsense. But Olivia wasn't finished yet. She stormed over to me and leaned in close. "You're not even using the postal service properly," she hissed. "You should be using a private courier like I do." I raised an eyebrow at her. "And waste more money. No thanks. The postal service is just fine for me." Olivia scowled at me and turned to leave, but as she did, she knocked my package out of my hand and onto the ground. "Oops, my bad," she said sarcastically, smirking at me as she walked away. I groaned and picked up my package, making sure nothing was damaged. As I did, I heard a commotion coming from the front of the line. I looked up to see Olivia shouting at the postal worker and trying to grab a package from her hand. "I want it now!" she screamed, her face turning red with anger. The postal worker held her ground and refused to give in to Olivia's demands. But Olivia wasn't backing down. She lunged at the worker, trying to snatch the package out of her hands. I stood frozen for a moment, unsure of what to do, but then I stepped forward and placed myself between Olivia and the postal worker. "That's enough," I said firmly, holding my ground. Olivia sneered at me. "Get out of my way, you peasant! I'm taking what I want." But I didn't budge. "Not happening. You can wait your turn like the rest of us." Olivia's anger boiled over, and she lunged at me, trying to push me out of the way. But I stood firm, and she stumbled backwards, falling onto the ground. As she picked herself up, fuming with anger, the postal worker called security. Olivia was escorted out of the post office, still shouting and causing a scene. I breathed a sigh of relief as she was finally gone. I never wanted to see that entitled, selfish woman again. But at least I knew that I had stood up to her and refused to let her get away with her entitled behavior. Short backstory: I'm good with computers and other tech. It's a mixture of entitled and I don't work here, but the "I don't work here" was a funny misunderstanding that led to Kevin the Entitled. So this happened in 2019, before stores were closing for sickness reasons, and I believe it was September. Could be wrong, but around there. So in my area there are 3 computer stores, and the one I went to was in Scooby Du Voice Rest Rui. AMD and Nvidia had just released some new products, so I wanted to get one. They were out, of course, but then I feel a tap on my shoulder. It was a woman no older than me, 28, 35. She asked if I knew much about computers. I told her, yes, I do. It didn't occur to me she thought I worked there, as I wasn't wearing the uniform. She gave me a piece of paper that was a parts list and said it was for a gaming computer her brother was gonna build for her son, and what a parts list it was. It was so horrible. ASUS 970 and Ryzen 7 2700, incompatible, and every part did not make sense like this. He was apparently gonna charge her $2,500 for a $900 computer on the high end. I explained to her my concerns and pulled up references so she did not think I was pulling one over on her. Again, she didn't know I was a customer too at the time, so I went into work mode and started my questions, and unlike the Karen in my previous story, she knew what her kid wanted. Made things easy so with the parts they had available. I gave her the list back with my edits to it, which was about $1,500, including Windows key, roughly at the time. I told her if she takes it to the guy at the desk, he would help her. She said, "Oh, I thought you might have the keys." Ding, I realized then she thought I worked there. I explained to her I did not. She laughed about it and then asked me if I'd be willing to build since it seemed like her brother was trying to rip her off. I told her, sure. She said she was willing to pay me what she was going to pay her brother. I told her no. I do this as a business and don't charge over $100 per build, so she would end up saving around what that PC would cost it. Well, right at that time, Kevin appeared hearing that last part. He got in my face, and I mean a few inches before he was gonna kiss my cheek close, and started to tell me I'm not allowed to steal customers. Now I've worked retail and convenience store at the manager level. I know the rules on stealing sales from a location. I was not doing that intentionally, as she asked me, and not the other way around. She tried to explain on my behalf what happened. He didn't care, and said I need to leave and he'd be happy to help her. Now, Best Buy doesn't work on commissions, so it wasn't that, but just a very jerk move when I wasn't there to poach customers. She told him no and get the manager. This wasn't a Karen get the manager. Oh no, this was a hey douche, get the manager. The manager was called and she let loose her grievances. I stayed back because if I butted in, it could have made things look worse since it looked like I broke the rules. Well, the manager was on the employee's side, of course. He even went as far to ban me from the store. Yes, I was banned for something I didn't do, as it was asked of me, not me asking her. She was mad now and told the manager she wouldn't be back anymore and will tell people how they really treat customers. Mind you, I've had many random people who just fall in my lap with CC questions. I don't do this door-to-door salesman looking for people. I have them go to my online site, but that is usually it besides phone calls. I even told the manager that I have a business that uses his store to buy parts if the rainforest site is out of stock. Well, he didn't care because in his eyes I was trying to steal a customer. Well, Kevin looked smug like he won. But won what? Why the smirk face? You just lost 2 customers that were about to spend $3,000. They didn't have my parts I wanted. But I needed other parts anyway, combined that day. Well, we left and I did indeed build the computer for her, but I gave her a Corsair keyboard, Key 55 if you wanted to know the model, and an RGB mousepad since the kid didn't have anything but an old keyboard, and I mean old. I set down the tower on the desk and even did some wire management for tripping safety. The kid was in school and she wanted to do a surprise video of him walking in to see it. All is well that ends well, I guess. I still don't go to that store, but she ended up paying me $300 for the build. I did try refuse, but she wanted me to have it as an apology for the store incident. Their family has kept in contact ever since because her husband is a huge anime nerd like me. Lol. Of course her brother was mad, but that's a different story. This all started around the beginning of this year. They are in their 60s or 70s. This woman is very wealthy. They own multiple homes and own multiple store locations for their business. However, one thing they, husband and wife, never seem to understand is finding workers. I have personally always been a hard worker, and while working as a bagger for my first job, I would routinely get random people offering odd jobs. Word got around and my mother's friend found out. Since she was a friend, I did not expect to get much of anything from her. I was not even expecting her to pay me. I was simply doing it out the kindness of my heart. They had recently bought a house, and since they are very wealthy, they wanted to renovate practically everything in the house within the first week or so, from the yard to the attic to the closets. Everything needed to change for the most part. During this few weeks, I would constantly get calls from her asking me when I was available when am coming again. I was expecting this to last maybe 2 days. However, the calls still go on to this day. She offered to pay me, but I never asked for a price since I just wanted out. At first, I had brought 3 of my friends, and after the first day, they said they would never come back. We got paid $100 for 3 full days of work. Then, as I started going alone, she would pay me maybe every 2-3 days, and at the time I was working and going to school, among other stuff. As time went on, I started to let her know in the most respectful way that I was not interested in working for her anymore. They would work from home, so I would witness a lot of things that went on behind the scenes of their business, as I did do some things for their business as well. She even fired someone right in front of me with only me, her, and the person in the room. Another time, she called me at around 8 p.m. and told me it was urgent. Someone had come to their home on the security cam, and even for me it was crazy. They had a couple of boxes on their front door, so she wanted me to move them inside. Some of the boxes were massive and I simply could not move them on my own. I was literally taking to her while she was in another country trying to move these boxes. She then asks why I can't call my friends to come and move the boxes. For one, they live around 30 minutes from me. 2, it was 8 p.m. on a weekday. 3, why could they not just have thought about this before they went on trip? I was like, am not calling my friends on a weekday at 8 p.m. to come and move a couple of boxes. Then another time I was meeting her husband for the first time and they invited me dinner at a restaurant. She complained so much it was crazy. I felt bad for the worker. Another time again, I was helping both her son and daughter move, and I don't understand why they are like this, but she wanted to keep all their stuff, all their garbage, clothes, just random stuff. They had hundreds of books, and her daughter was a scientist, so she had a bunch of lab stuff that needed to be handled with care. It took me around 1 week to empty 2 rooms and drive them around 30 men to their other house, so she would just ignore the fact that I said I can work anymore and continued to contact me. This went on for a while, but this week was crazy. So they go on a lot of vacations almost every week. They blow money like it's nothing. They go for 2 days, then they come back. For a couple of weeks, they would call me to bring them to help them pack their bags, then bring them to help them pack their bags, then bring them to the airport, and by the evening they would be back. They call me and tell me they need someone to cut their red lawns while they are gone. At first, I tell them I don't have a lawnmower, as they were expecting me to buy my own. Then they keep asking me. Then they tell me to literally drive from my house to go to their own houses to open their back gate and watch the lawn guy cut the grass. Then I said I can't, and they ignored it. Then they said they would buy me lawnmower to cut grass, and that is where we are at right now. Never in my life have I had someone so entitled in my life. Edit. So a lot of people are asking why I did not block them. Well, like I said, she is very close in our family, and yes, I get it, you can cut off family members, but I would rather cut them off respectfully. That is just my way of working things out. Although, yes, I may have been exploited for my time. I did make some money off of them, as they always had work for me at the end of the day. I was practically able to live off their payments while saving the rest of my income from my jobs and so on. I don't know about you guys, but am broke. I could always use the money low. However, I will make sure to take your advice and either make a clear plan with them or move on with my life. If I had to explain what kind of person she is, well, she is kinda like a Karen, and although I hate that word, it's easy for people to understand it. However, she does not scream or do anything stupid for the most part. It's like talking to a high school principal. They just make you feel dumb, as if you were wrong. But since she knows me, she treats me kinda well, and I am practically excluded from her nonsense behavior for the most part.